Okay, well, I will start with I had a dream that Matthias Stefano was in. And so whenever I have dreams, I always look into it because there's something in there for me. So I just popped over to Google and decided to see what he was doing. If he was doing anything or just made any recent talks. And he happened to be doing a workshop in Chicxulub, Mexico, today. So I just logged on to the live webinar that he was doing in person, basically talking about um, the healing of this event that happened over 2,000 years ago, about 2,000 years ago in Chicxulub, Mexico, where this asteroid had hit the planet and basically caused a mass extinction. And so they were talking about uh, the healing of the planet and also the memories of humanity from being massively extinct, like without like the evolutionarily going extinct. So we all existed and then we didn't. So the confusion of souls, which we have like deep in our akashic memory, this trauma, and as well as the planet has this trauma. Uh, he also was talking about splitting of the atom. So something about this search that we're all on. I mean, we're all searching for truth and unity, and although we live in a world of polarity, basically that splitting of the atom, which was what caused existence. So that's why we are created. We are matter. So we're all basically searching for that one atom that was split. But if we found it, we wouldn't exist anymore. So it's like that polarity, right? Like we're searching for unity, but unity actually destroys who we who we have come to know that we are, because we are polar in our creation. So it's like this, it's like the grand dichotomy. I feel like whenever I learn from Matthias, uh, I'm challenged because it's very philosophical. And it's just like very large concepts that I'm like, I never really thought about that. Because if we all find that one thing that we're searching for, which is source, and we become one, we stop existing in this physical way. Um,
I think there's
yeah,
layers to that. Like,
100%.
first of all, what a great share. I think that's it really brings together some things that I've been mulling in my own like world and in some of my other astral work. But it's a good point to make about, existence. Like, how do we exist? Like, okay, yeah, that totally makes sense. But is there a point where we come to like how much information processing do we have to accomplish before we can truly embody both sides to the paradigm and still exist? Now, whether that's physically or in consciousness, and maybe we've gotten there already, and so we know how to exist just in consciousness, but we come back to do these layers of resolving trauma, resolving big trauma, big collective trauma, as a means to have that physical experience. But I think both exist. I think we're just learning how to bridge the gap so that we can exist on both sides of that parallel, where it's like the third truth in between, right? Like a wise man once said, there's always at least three sides to every story because there's your side and all of your perspectives and beliefs and everything that goes into that. And then there's mine, for example, but then there's the divine, fair and balanced truth in the middle that is a good representation of all that is. And so I
Right.
think we've had to learn both sides of the polarity, and now we're kind of walking it back to the middle of being able to um, see all of that, which is
I
really
tell you,
fascinating.
I tell you really crazy that I literally just said that to somebody because somebody sent me a video of somebody and it was kind of judgmental. And I was like, while they make some good points, I don't know what happened in the situation, so I'm not going to ac- accept that as truth. And I was like, I literally said word for word this morning, there's three sides to every story. Your side, my side, and the truth.
Truth, exactly.
That's so funny that even just the way that you brought it up was exactly the way that I just said that this morning. Um, which is just, I mean, we're all just
We're there, baby.
on
I love it.
on the same wavelength, which is what allows us to create together.
Well,
Um,
I love the piece about now that's kind of high level, broad spectrum, but you hooked me when you said about the mass extinction trauma because I feel like the stories that we tell about our ancient civilizations and how they all came to kind of fall and come to this place is like I see oh I see a whole smorgasbord of like it's repetition, like that's how you learn is repetition, but like where did religion come from, right? Like the problems that we have in today's culture is a lot based around control paradigms. It's like there's the dense levels that we're working through and unraveling. To me all ties back to religion, and I'm not singling out any one or the other. I'm saying a blanket all religion is kind of where the programming for these control like and lower density paradigms came from. And I it feels like a missing piece in the puzzle and like my awareness because my understanding of well there are threads of religion that are criticized for being unrealistic, and one of those that I'm aware of has been well the earth has only existed for 2000 years or 6000 years or something like that, like whatever it is that they say, and the science community is like no that's not possible, for all of these reasons, and here's what the science said. And I think there was an important point that was brought up recently about the like a different kind of split, but the split between science and spirituality. To me I took that as original separation wound, and I don't think that's the only one. I think there's a handful of different like categories of this separation wound, and maybe bringing all of those separation wounds together into like one awareness is what helps us to bridge the gap on some of these things. But to me this asteroid and mass extinction of Earth as we know it in the recent past is just another clue to what it is that we're doing here and what our mission truly is. And we all have picked up different layers and levels and stories around our personal experiences with trauma. And so there's a lot of different subcategories that kind of go into that. But what I'm kind of getting is we're all on the trauma resolution team, if you will, for the collective and for the planet. So what happens when we finally get to a place where the whole collective is there with the awareness, and then we all lean in together and it creates something totally brand new?
um, Irene, I want to hear your voice, my friend. How are you doing?
The only thing that's coming in for me is energy, and I want to connect with you because I don't know, I feel a strong pull to connect with you.
I'm feeling your weaving. I
I
can
had
feel.
to mute myself.
I'm feeling the weaving. So I appreciate you for that. Um uh I had there's something that Matthias said that um was very related to what you just said, Crystal, but I lost my train of thought. Um I lost it.
It'll come back.
What did you just say? What was the last thing you said?
We were talking about reflections of the split, as it were, as being original separation wound. And then I was talking about collective resolution of all trauma.
Okay, okay, I got it. So he said something about, like, how we're all just healing. I feel like we're just always healing something. We're always healing something. And he was like, we're never gonna be like totally healed, right? Because all healing is like basically a resolution of karma, um, cause and effect, um, and that's kind of like what we call healing, bringing that back into balance. What happened, finding meaning, growing, taking the wisdom, but not the suffering, basically. And he was like, that is a never ending cycle, and it has to be a never ending cycle because existence, well, I mean, the universe, I mean, just how source works is infinity. So it's infinitely expanding through all time, space, dimensions, and realities. So this healing that we're on, uh, especially with the polar mind of humanity right now, um, we feel like we have to like rush to do this thing that is forever, because as we live, we create more karma, and it's not that it has to be bad karma, it's just karma. Existence is cause and effect. And yeah, he's like, so in order to not feel the separation, I think, uh, we have to expand into all spaces and all time. And the more that we expand into that infinity, I think we bump up against shadow and all of those things, um, that make us who we believe we are. Is the more we expand into source, I mean, you lose yourself, which is a different type of destruction. I mean, it's a beautiful destruction because it's a destruction of illusion and of separation. Because in truth, we are not separated, but in physical reality, in this reality, we perceive separation, so there is separation within this reality, um, which is something I'm still trying to wrap my mind around why I need to know this. But I just woke up this morning and I just decided that I wanted to get into a Rubik's cube in my mind. That's what I was doing at 7 in the morning.
I think it's the scientist in you.
100%.
Well, not only the scientist in you, but the repressed scientist in the collective that knows that these energetic workings are
Same.
100% real, 100% effective, but have been closeted for so long. And then misinformation campaigns and everything else, all of the dark forces that wanted to keep it separate. And so when you said about bumping up into shadow in that process, yes, we bump up into our own shadow, but we also bump into our individual programming and collective programming as well. And so it gets to become a bit more of a robust challenge with all of these different layers and levels, and it's all by grand design. Like, we're waking up to the grand design of all that is so that we can teach and expand this knowledge far beyond what our human mind can conceive. That, I think, is the ultimate purpose of it. And when you said about we're always healing, I got a little bit of resistance on that because, yes, to a certain degree, on the grand scale of how it works, that's absolutely true. In order for us to continue existing, we must have this dance and the balance of all that is. But as you come to different levels of it on an individual piece, I think here we are bridging the gap again of finding the lines of what that actually is on an individual basis versus how it looks for the collective. So I see this dual parallel where it's like you get to a certain point where you resolve the shadows and you resolve the negative karma that we chose to come in with. If we take a step back and think, okay, well, the purpose of this is to resolve all collective trauma, I'm going to take this and this and this piece based on my experience, and I know I'll be able to accomplish this with confidence. So these are my individual threads of the collective that we're pulling together. But as we all come to the realization of that's almost, I love this background. This was totally synchronistic today. It's like we're
Totally
all
looking
standing
at
at different points on this, and we're carrying our own threads, and we're learning how to weave the light. And we're bringing in the light, and we're weaving it to the collective, and we're all doing this together. And so the philosophical question on my mind is, what actually happens when we meet ourselves at source as a collective? Because I see it as like there's definitely an individual sovereignty piece of this, and this is where I started with the resistance to the belief that it's never ending, because it may come to an end when we meet source and we go, okay, this is really awesome. I'm gonna soak in these frequencies for a while, but then I get to make a choice of what I want to do next. And so we can then have, maybe that oversight of all that is to say, well, where are my specific energies and frequencies and experiences the most effective and well utilized? And I'm going to go there. My consciousness, I'm going to choose that my consciousness is going to go over here to this point on whatever planet or whatever aspect of infinity that I want to participate at that time. Maybe it's not a planet, maybe it's a light ray, maybe it's a solar wave, maybe it's infinite, like you said. But I think we are coming into just upper layers of that grand design as we become aware of more and more of how it works, to where we are truly stepping into that um, divine sovereignty and seeing in the process where we have succumbed to our shadows or our programming or the things that have affected us on different density levels. But being able to see kind of all of that is really kind of mind blowing.
Yeah, I got a lot of stuff from what you just said. Um, I also, because I've been doing shadow work lately, which is where my mind, even I was sitting in my room and I like lit a candle and I was meditating and I got up and there's like all these shadows around because it's like a dark room and I have a candle and I started like doing hand light language and it was actually really fun. So it was a really kind of cute experience with my actual shadow. Um, but there's this energy about shadow that I'm trying to, I don't know if change is the right word, but uh that when light just shines on, an aspect of like creation of existence, it creates a shadow on the other side, which is just a reflection. And we decided that the shadow was bad and that the shadow was dark. And we basically put all of the unconscious things and all the scary things that we didn't want to claim in the dark so that it made the shadow bad. Um, and the shadow's what we made it because the shadow is just light bouncing off of us. And or the absence of light because we are basically standing in the way, which is all it is. Um, so I guess the 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 part of infinity that I was speaking about was just that as light as we work with light, there is this yin yang, this push and pull of the universe. And I think as we come to meet our own shadow, it stops becoming something that we're escaping from, that we have to escape from. Because when you truly meet, I mean, where I've met my shadow, uh, it's very enlightening and it's very humbling because the only terrifying part of it was what I assigned to it. Uh, the darkness is just, well, what it feels like to me is a lack of information. Um, and there's all these parts of me, of the collective. I mean, the more you feel unified with unity, I mean, you get aligned with also the collective darkness because we're all one. Um, not just my darkness in this lifetime. I've contributed to not every lifetime I was the good guy. I have been every role. I've contributed to the collective through all my lifetime. So in this one, I'm the light worker, I'm the good one. No, they're like, everybody's been contributing to this darkness. Um, and as darkness is an aspect of creation, um, what because I've been working a lot with the I am presence, and the I am keeps saying that like the ultimate creator is light and dark. So if you are going to embody the I am, you don't get to pick a side, um, because that's not unity. And this is all of creation. All of creation is source. Um, so I guess I've just been trying to wrap my brain around. It's kind of like put it in like a simpler analogy. It's like, when you have like a judgmental thought about someone, you'll be like, oh, like my friend is like so bad with money or something like that. And because of my thought about her in my world, I will only experience that friend that doesn't know how to handle her money. Because I put her there in my mind. And that's how my reality is constructed around that belief. I feel like that is what darkness is wanting, this liberation from us, from within. We have to liberate it from within the darkness. Um, and there was this thing that Matthias was talking about, as unconditional love basically being the same thing as acceptance. Um, and something that happens when we just accept that, um, that is a part of creation and that's who we are. Um, and that darkness doesn't mean that it's like horrible or like we have to suffer and like hurt people. It's just, I mean, darkness is the womb. It's the black hole of creation. It's the mother goddess. Um, and we put this frightening spin on that mystery, and then we put all of the things we don't understand into that darkness, and then we said that's darkness's fault. um
Well, you know how I see it, not to interject here. Uh,
Grounding.
but no, you're good. This is all good stuff. I mean, I kind of see it as so the void of creation that you're speaking of is where we enter to make our creations. And, maybe somebody wants to call it our dream time or, whatever. But in the world of true free will, true empowered embodied, which is what we're here working through, Divine Mother is not going to put exceptions on that. It's if it's your creation, it's your creation. And so I think over the eons, what has happened is that as the true creators, we we maybe didn't always listen to our inner guidance when we were creating things. We thought we knew better, and so we did it anyways. And then when we saw the result of that, we went, "Oh, I didn't like that. Did I do that?" And it as you're talking about it, I'm seeing it come together as this like this is a game, right? It's a game we created for ourselves to unwind the mistakes that we've made in the past that we weren't sure how to take accountability for. And so it gets to be a process of working through all that, working through taking accountability and then liberating ourselves on all of those aspects with compassion and forgiveness, because it kind of reminds me of like putting ourselves to sleep. Like, I can't believe I did that. So it's almost like this, we hypnotize ourselves by telling a different story, by placing blame or whatever the case may be. Well, that's not mine, that's not mine, that's not mine, and it's not true. But that's a belief that we choose to take on to make ourselves feel better because we felt bad about the thing that happened before that we actually did. And so it gets to be this game of falling asleep and waking back up again to our, and it can be touch and go, and that's why shadow work is perceived as difficult, because it's about coming back around to things that we buried so deep within ourselves because we didn't want to see. But now that we're seeing it come full circle as this collective um, shadow in a way, we get to see our resistances in the process, but ultimately take accountability with compassion and forgiveness for ourselves and all of creation, which I think resets the board. Once we get a certain, what's the word I'm looking for? There's like it's escaping me, but we like a certain mass of the collective that's at that point that understands and it clicks and we get it. Like I see it as a different level of existence in a way where there's density, density, density. Like we're working through pockets of density, and then we get to the outer layers of the shell, and we're like, oh, I can see through the other side, and like we start pecking our beaks at the shell and cracking it, and then we come out of the shell and we see the next layer of it, and then it just starts another cycle. Existence is cycles within cycles in order for it to even work, and the grand aspect of it all.
The word that came up when you were trying to find your words was ascension. That's what that sounds like. When we ultimately collectively get to this place where this grand experience, this experiment, this lesson that we're all going through, we're learning. Once we get enough of humanity that is like, okay, got it, I'm ready for something else, I've mastered this. Once we hit enough of us hit that vibration, I think it will send us over the tipping point of, it's like we're all, I think, like humanity as a whole right now, we're on these octaves like of like music notes, like we're on this scale, and then we're all gonna, once we all hit, I don't know what the highest note is. What's the highest note? 8? I don't know. Maybe it's G. I don't know. But once we all hit that note, then another octave opens up, and I think that other octave is like another level of existence, probably something we can't even comprehend, like another way of being. Um, and something that I think that I've been thinking about lately, which I don't know why, but I've been thinking of how long it took humanity to figure out how to be humans and how to embody source um when we were a new being, and how when we go to a new level of existence, because when before we were humans we were a different level of existence, so then we came here to learn how to be at this level of existence and also embody source. And how, I mean, and this is me getting ahead of myself because I think it's fun, when we go to a new level of existence it will be the same, not the same experience, but the same way as we are in a completely new level of existence, and we will then have to figure out what embodying source looks like at that level. And we will have to learn, how does this reality work, because there's going to be higher and higher and higher and higher levels and levels and levels of embodying source that are constantly going to be beckoning us to that light, to that embodiment. um and we're gonna get there and we're gonna be like, we don't know what we're doing. And we will be having to learn
Well, that's
probably how to construct realities or something, how to create worlds, like
totally.
do you guys ever think of who God, like prime source creator, do you guys ever think of who was the creator of that creator? I think about that all the time. Who is I just think that there's gods of gods of gods of gods of gods, and it's just like, it's just mind blowing to me. Um,
Well, it is the
because
mind-bending way of infinity, of the infinite creation, right? Because it, like, when you say that, my first thought is, well, it's a different universe. But like, if you zoom out on a grand scale, like, are you familiar with superclusters?
I mean, I'm vaguely familiar with like galaxy type terms, but probably not.
So there's I don't remember what got me onto this rabbit hole, but the Milky Way galaxy is part of a much larger system called a supercluster that and the one that the Milky Way is part of is called the Lani. Oh, I'd have to look it up. Lost it the minute I tried to say it, Laniakea or something like that. But if you zoom out and look at it, it looks like a big giant heart, where like with light streams and like that's where like and so as you're saying, well, who's the creator of the creator? Well, we're all creators, and we're all aspects of the infinite creator on different levels, and we're figuring out the mechanics by jumping into the experience of it. But like lately I've been getting this as we pull in new light forms and expand, like I see this supercluster lighting up this big giant heart in the universe, and it's like, okay, well, what is that tied to? Is that so is the universe what we would think of as an individual, where it's got different parts and pieces? And so right now we're working on the heart piece, and maybe there's another one that's a brain, and maybe we're actually, if there's no time, then we're doing all of it together. And I've been getting a lot of like brain things, ideas, like as I'm doing different gridding and stuff. So I think, like we said, it's more than the human mind can comprehend, but it's really fascinating putting all the pieces together. And so when I think of original separation wound, I think of source. I think of a segment of source that wondered and was curious about what it would be like to not be this golden ball of light. Well, what's it like to be that space over there? Well, and then like I see, it's almost like I see it as a brain inside, like inside of like a glass ball or something, and then like the part of the brain that was like, I wonder what's over there. Just like a stream of light went over there and created a whole new thing. And so I think there's a lot of different levels of that.
Yeah, I'm deep in. I feel like I'm learning so much as there's so many things that are coming up as you're speaking. Um,
There's so many puzzle pieces in my head that are just like, they're all just kind of floating.
yeah, there's I'm like writing notes too. I think that there's because of what I've been doing with DNA lately and my own DNA, um, this evolution, and as I'm like actually physically feeling my DNA evolve. Uh, it's opening up parts. It's opening up different parts and different memories. Um, like I have cellular memory of Orion, um, and are the importance of a lot of humanity in our role in that war and our consciousness role in that war, um, because of the seeding of many beings. They seeded their DNA on this planet, and it ended up mixed with other beings' DNA inside one human. And because of that consciousness, because there's beings that could not get along in the cosmos, they seeded a they seeded themselves in our planet, um, in one being, and that war consciousness came within the being. So, and there's still things I'm learning about the so now there are beings within that constellation, the Orion, um, that have come back in time, like back in frequency, basically to for this. It's like a cosmic healing, right? So what you said about the heart, um, in the universe, that made so much sense because it was like healing on a cosmic scale. Because when we heal the war within and we get to harmony within, we don't bring that consciousness. I mean, we're very close as humanity to entering that universal arena, that cosmic arena. We're like this close to be sitting on councils with whatever, the Galactic Federation or whoever you want to call them. Um, there are many beings in the universe that are waiting for humanity to get to this point where we can now be a part of this conversation because our planet is a part of a universal system, um, and how much destruction that war caused in Orion, and how time is a circle. So if they go back and heal that cause in the past, which is our present, in so basically we're preparing for a future where that war never happens. Sorry, that I don't know where that just came from, but I feel
I
like
love that.
there's a lot of pieces of learning that have come in. I had a dream about this asteroid, um, M613. It just was in whenever I'm like traveling my Merkaba, I'll wake up and there will be like a word or like a phrase running through my brain, and then I have to like write it down really fast because that's has something to do with where I was or what I was learning. Um, and I looked it up, and M613 is it's like the scientific name of an asteroid that actually has like a Hawaiian name. Uh, the actual asteroid was named by like Hawaiian people like a long time ago, but we call it M613. And yeah, it's an asteroid that it's like interstellarly traveling towards our planet. Um, and there's something about consciousness or beings from outside of our galaxy traveling by way of, I mean, we call it an asteroid, but what is it really? We don't know what it really is. Um, because there's a much grander game at play, a much bigger scheme of things. Um, like sometimes I'm like, why am I doing this? Why am I experiencing all these things? Why do I feel like I'm falling through time and space every single day? Sometimes I get very frustrated at the physical experiences that I'm having. And I'm just like, why? Why can't I just have a normal day ever? And then I will get these ahas. I feel like I've gotten so many ahas during this conversation about when you play the game of unity, you you are of service to all life everywhere, and not just humanity, not just Gaia. That's what unity is, and that's how Source plays, because Source is on all the teams. He's on all the sides. He, she, whatever. It. Um. Okay, I'm done. Sorry.
I love that. And I love all of your scientific pieces that you sprinkle in along the way. I'm gonna go look up that asteroid and see what it's about.
Yeah.
But
Yeah. It was great.
what's really alive for me this week is um the moon. And the moon is ascending and going through a transition as well as we go through this process. And I wasn't thinking about that as much before, but it's almost like the moon is a really powerful connector piece for us to bridge with our higher consciousness. So I've been thinking about things for a long time in terms of thirds, because I read probably along my journey somewhere, it was a psychology book, I think, or something that talked about the subconscious, the conscious, and the superconscious, and how the combination of all of that and like how they merge in different ways is where we kind of can see opportunities for shadow work and different things like that. But if you think about the subconscious being embodied by Telos and our inner earth councils, our conscious being embodied by the surface, our surface dwellers, if you will, and then our superconscious being tied to the moon somehow. Um, One of my classes in the last week touched on the space of life between lives in the reincarnation cycle. And at the time I didn't see the moon as part of the mechanics of that, but I definitely do now with everything that's transpired since then, because it's like it's this continual rotation that I think that was hijacked at some point and was a mechanism to feed us with those the control paradigms and the fear and the everything that has infiltrated our consciousness through the water, really, and through the phases of how that moves and transpires. And so it's almost like I see how some of our groups talk about the waves of golden consciousness of the future timelines and the golden children and all of that. I kind of see like the more shadow work we do, the more we as a system, as a planetary system in co-creation with Gaia, is reclaiming the moon for the highest good of every all. And so it's like our shadow work is not just our own, it's also planetary and related to the solar system because there's many layers, but the part that's most relevant to us is the earth, humanity, and the moon as our perfect thirds in the system. And so as we progress through that shadow work, we are freeing up space within the moon to be filled with that golden consciousness. So that, and I guess the theory there is once there's no more shadow and it's all just golden light, then I think that's when the next level of existence can start to be seen on a more massive level, because then it's the whole system that's been repaired. And then once we hit to that point, then we'll start to see like a very rapid um experience of, washing away of all the shadows that still remain within us. So it's like perfecting the energies within help us to perfect the energies and the mechanics within all of those layers. And then once we reach that critical point, it's like a blanket in my mind's eye that it kind of folds around all of it. And I've heard people describe, the golden web, and it makes me wonder if the threads of shadow work that we've been doing are creating this web, and maybe the web was hijacked at some point too. And now that we're infusing the grids with our light, that maybe we're reclaiming everything in that process. It's and on all of the layers too, like we're reclaiming the shadows of the moon that have been keeping us in this construct and in this reincarnation cycle, even the threads in between the moon and the planet, and then within the planet the waters and the minerals and all of the everything that combines to make this wonderful creation that we get to experience. And then everything in between just kind of falls in line with the resonance and the harmonic nature of that.
I write so many notes when you speak.
Hey, that goes both ways, babe.
I'm like, write that down.
All right,
Uh,
I'm gonna have to get going. Um, but
Thank
it
you
was
for your
fun.
presence.
I'm sorry, I'm not much into the mental game of it.
It's okay.
I'm just lately just been really wanting to connect on an energetic level, but I was completely energetically connected, so I was like receiving all of it.
We could feel
Like,
that. We could feel that.
yeah, because I'm feeling
Absolutely.
like I could feel it just feels like everything's beaming like vroom, vroom, like
Uh,
waves of
there's
energy.
yeah, there's
And
tons of
what
information
I
being
like about this too is, and maybe what we do, and think about this, we don't need to figure it out an answer right now, but maybe what we do is we have these little discussions about the higher level stuff and the mechanics, and then maybe the next time we meet, we feel into an activation about that to have a connector so that we're meeting both sides for balance. But kind of what's coming, the pearl of wisdom that's coming to me from this meeting is healing the different layers and levels of separation wounding. Like, I would love for the activations from this channel to be such high level on an energetic standpoint without all of the mental clutter, that you just receive it and it just unravels so much more. And so I think our next activation, if we set the intention to make it about unraveling all layers of separation wounding, then it brings in all of the topics that we've talked about and also expands on that. And then it's like this little perfect package of, I don't know, healing, activation, whatever you want to call it. So
That totally works. I mean, I feel the balance in that because since you're good at dissecting the mental parts of it, and just because all that plays a part, like there's so much that plays a part, but then the energetic piece of it,
has to
yeah, it's
land.
not it's not easy to hold the consistency and the framework of the energetics while we're kind of leaning into this mental piece. And so I feel like this is a really good dynamic with all of us as well, because if Irene's not as much into the mental piece of it and you're wanting to hold the frequencies, then that
Mhm.
helps us to go further in the discussion without the mental piece kind of unraveling on the back end. So that's a
Plus,
really
I don't
good
know if you could
stopgap, I
feel
feel
the
like.
energy that was flowing, because there is a lot of energy flowing in the gathering, even though it's been a lot of like and talking, I could feel the flow of energy filling the room. Like it's all there. It's all there together. It almost feels like it's feeling like a balloon.
Yeah, and I think
Yeah,
it's a
no,
great example of what we're coming into the realization of leaning into our expansion and our power with working in groups because we can take ourselves and each other farther in the conversation and in the dynamics by leaning on each other in those ways. And so I think that's perfect.
Because as you two are speaking, I'm kind of like just feeling into the energy of both of you. And when I would open my eyes and I'd see Trinity, I'm like, I'd get all like this hit of energy and I just couldn't stop smiling. And I just felt source just in its fullness. And it was just so beautiful. And then, the same with you, Crystal, and just listening to you speak. I mean, I could, like, me just listening is very activating to me. Like, I don't even need to say a word, but I'm communicating on an energetic level. I don't know if, like, that makes sense.
you're like an energy scribe.
Totally felt, yes.
And I'm like, I don't know if you could feel it, but
Oh, I can. Oh, well, because the energetics in the background, especially when you're in the mental game, um, it's so important to keep, because when I have very, very deep mental conversations like this, it's very easy. Like, I'll lose my train of thought. I did that a couple times. Um, and then I could feel when you came in with the frequency and you kind of weave it right back up, because it's very easy to get away from what is the point of this again? Because point always is the frequency, and the point always is source and love.
Mhm,
And we can get so specific uh that you get further and further and further away from the point. Um and so that frequency weaving in the background, and like I said, I do it because it's fun for me.
mhm.
Uh you don't need all the details, but you could find your way back to source not knowing any of that. Um but it's fun, and it's I think it's relevant.
Every time I hear the two of you speak and look at your faces, I find my way back to source, like instantly.
I love that.
It's just like that. It's just like that simple. So thank you, thank you, thank you for your energy. Thank you
Thank
for being
you.
so intelligent. Thank you for doing all the research on this. Like my mind can't wrap around any of it, but I do. Like if but then when I'm sitting with you, the energy is so strong, I can't keep my focus on that. I'm just like just
Yeah.
floating.
Just absorb. You could just absorb so much telepathic communication happening right now. Um, so
Plus,
much.
I was told to come to this meeting to look into your eyes, and I kept being told to look into your eyes. So
Yeah, there's
received,
so
received,
much
received,
so
received.
much information that comes from just telepathy.
Well,
I've
our last meeting, um, I picked up a download from you because, in my daily practices, when I expressed light, something new came in after our meeting, and I know it was from you, Trinity, because it was something that I've heard you do and felt you do, and it had never came through. And then all of a sudden, it's like just started coming through like natural, and I'm like, oh shit, did I just download something from her? So it is like an exchange. So as we do this, we're gonna start to pick up stuff from each other because we're gonna be
oh yeah,
activating each other to different levels.
oh yeah. I have so many nuggets from. I think Crystal, which is one thing that I just enjoy so much about you. I think sometimes, especially as scientific as my brain is, and I don't mean this to sound like ego centered or anything, but when I come in to like different spiritual communities, I also bring that scientific part of me with me. So I notice that I'm not challenged as much as I'm used to. Um, and I really appreciate that part of your conversation where you're like, well, what about this? Or I think this way. And I notice that I bump up into a little bit of resistance when people have a different viewpoint of me. And that's something that I have to be completely honest about myself and my journey. Um, because I don't know everything. I don't even kind of know everything. But my ego's like, why doesn't everybody think that I'm right? And not that you said I was wrong, but it's just these micro learnings that you have in conversation with other people. and these other people that are just as bright, just as tapped in, just as knowledgeable as you, and they're also trying to teach as well. Um, which is why I'm just an eternal student, because just as much as I want to get better at teaching, I also need to get better at listening and learning, because I mean, we're all fractals of that mirror. And so everybody's experience is the truth, because it is a part of the truth. um
I love
I
that
love that.
reflection. I've actually always been better at math and reading than I was science, but I value science and I value, you know, the construct of that to a certain degree. And so that's really what I like to lean into, for the balance, right? Like that's why I think it was so resonant for me when you said about the separation of science and spirituality, because my journey has been about learning more about the spiritual side of things, but also, well, how does this make sense from a scientific standpoint? Because there's got to be balance. Like, I don't want to get too far on either side of that spectrum. I like to be, somewhere in the fair and balanced middle, and be able to lean into, fun creations on either side, but having that center point be in balance is really important to me. And yes, life is a continual learning process, and I love that we are all such
100%.
beautiful reflections of each other. So thank
Trying
you.
to be just, yeah, just as honest and authentic as I can, with learning. And it's so, I mean, it's just so amazing just co-creating with people that are like, yeah, dude, let's hop on and just see. This is the unknown. Every time we gather, you guys realize, like, we're saying yes to just like there are frequencies and thought form geometries that are created by these conversations, um that have never existed before. So like that's just by us waking up and saying yes. It's just like, it's really cool.
I mean, just listening to the conversation without saying a word was like my frequency was just going wild. Like I could feel like myself expanding because with every word there's like a ding, ding, ding. So the frequency is connected to every thought,
For sure. Yep.
to every perspective. And I learned so much that I wouldn't have otherwise. So
I think also when you're quiet, you have, like, I mean, it's the same thing. Like when I sing a song versus when I listen to a song, I have a completely different experience. Like I have fun when I sing the song, but when I listen to the song, I'm crying. I'm like, I can feel my whole heart. Um, it's just, yeah, it's different when you're just absorbing and you can feel the subtle. I mean, I think when I'm speaking, I can miss some of the subtleties about what's actually happening in the frequency. That's why I quiet the mind, and you become still, and you become clear. um so that is a very beautiful. I mean, I think I would like to come on to a Zoom and just, like, can you imagine getting onto one of JJ's like, I don't know, grid work or whatever, and just listening the whole time and not speaking. I feel like that would be I feel like that'd be very beautiful.
That's kind of where I was at yesterday. I was in the hot tub.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Oh yeah. That I was like, she's somewhere in water. I was like, maybe I bet she's in a lake.
that sounds like fun. That's great.
Well, I know we have hard stops. I could talk to you ladies forever, but I think a great
Yeah.
way to kind of come down
Close this
from
out.
the clouds, ground a little bit. Just a couple of deep breaths. I like to reach down into my Earth Star chakra and pull up black light, pure black light from Gaia. It's very grounding. It can surround us and protect us. Just coming into that heart coherence. With love and light and infinite blessings for a wonderful day and wonderful week ahead until we meet again.
Until we meet again.